Initially, subtle shifts in her demeanor caught my attention. Longer stretches scrolling on her phone, secretive grins, and abrupt reasons to linger at the office. I tried to convince myself it was insignificant, but a nagging intuition suggested otherwise. When I mustered the courage to confront her, she brushed it off with a chuckle, saying, "It's just a silly infatuation. You're blowing it out of proportion." Her words struck deeper than I anticipated, not merely because of this so-called infatuation, but due to the ease with which she disregarded my emotions. For days, I wrestled with self-doubt, wondering if I was indeed overreacting or simply too insecure. Yet, the way her face brightened at his name on her screen, and how swiftly she hid her phone when I entered, confirmed my fears. I wasn't imagining things. She was emotionally slipping away, leaving me grasping at a marriage that now felt lopsided. In a second, calmer confrontation, I asked, "Are you aware of the harm this is causing us?" She exhaled heavily, as if my concerns were an unnecessary burden, and insisted, "You're making a mountain out of a molehill." But it wasn't trivial. What begins as an innocent attraction becomes far from harmless when it evolves into covert texts, private giggles, and persistent thoughts of someone else. That evening, alone in our bedroom, I gazed at our wedding pictures hanging on the wall, recalling the sacred vows we'd exchanged. Yet here we were. She claimed I was overreacting while giving fragments of herself to another. I felt foolish for battling to preserve a bond with someone blind to the wreckage she was causing. The following morning, I chose not to argue further. Instead, I quietly began collecting evidence of their exchanges, late-night messages and photos she thought were concealed. This wasn't driven by malice. I needed clarity to confirm whether I was losing my grip on reality, or if she was manipulating me. The proof was undeniable. Her feelings for him went beyond a fleeting fancy. She was deeply invested. When I presented her with the evidence, her face drained of color. She stammered, claiming it wasn't serious, but her excuses were flimsy, and my patience had evaporated. I told her, "You don't get to define what hurts my heart. You can't trivialize my pain and expect me to stay quiet." She broke into tears, but by then, my love was transforming into something new: self-worth. Her family soon called, questioning why she was at their home sobbing. I recounted the truth, word for word. Initially, they rallied to her defense, but after I shared the screenshots, their tone shifted. They acknowledged her mistake, but pleaded for me to give her another chance. I listened silently, though my resolve was already taking shape. Weeks passed filled with her messages, apologies, vows to cut ties, and frantic efforts to mend what was shattered. But each time I read her words, her earlier dismissal echoed. "It's just a silly infatuation." Those words had sliced deepest, a wound that lingered. I began to prioritize myself, my career, my tranquility. For the first time in years, I felt unburdened. Friends invited me out, and I realized how much of my identity I'd sacrificed while trying to salvage a marriage that only I seemed to cherish. The experience was both freeing and heart-wrenching. Eventually, I met with her one final time. I said, "Love isn't about ignoring each other's hurt. It's about shielding one another from it. By choosing him, even if you called it an infatuation, you let me go." She pleaded for another chance, but my heart was resolute. Soon after, I initiated divorce proceedings. It was painful but essential. She resisted at first, then tried to stall, but ultimately signed the papers. Our marriage didn't end in a dramatic clash, but with the quiet finality of documents bearing years of fractured trust. Months later, mutual friends shared that the man she'd deemed her harmless infatuation had moved on swiftly, leaving her alone to grapple with the realization that she'd traded a committed partnership for a fleeting fixation. For me, that chapter was closed. I walked away with my self-respect intact. Now, when her words cross my mind, they no longer spark anger. Instead, they remind me that the moment she trivialized my pain, she gave me the freedom to safeguard my heart.